The kiss. Under the twin moons. The twin moons hung low in the alien sky, casting a soft blue light over the quiet valley of Kelvara. The stars shimmered like distant fires, and the air smelled of sweet glowing plants. Callan, a human engineer from Earth, stood outside his tent, wiping grease off his hands. He had just finished repairing the power core of the alien village's shield generator. Kelvara was not like Earth. The ground pulsed gently under his boots, and strange flying lights moved through the sky like slow-moving comets. But even in this strange world, Callan had found something peaceful. She walked toward him through the moonlight. Yari, an alien girl with soft purple skin, long silver hair, and glowing eyes. She was young, curious, and always asked questions. Yari had been watching him work for days, silently learning. She didn't speak much, but her eyes always sparkled when Callan explained something. "Is it fixed?" she asked, tilting her head. Callan smiled. "Yeah, should hold now. At least till your people stop poking it with sticks." Yari giggled. It was a soft, bell-like sound that made Callan's heart skip a beat. They sat on a fallen tree together, watching the moons. For a while, they said nothing. Callan handed her a piece of dried earth fruit. She sniffed it, made a face, then took a bite. Her face lit up. "It tastes like rain." Callan laughed. "That's the strangest compliment I've ever heard." She smiled shyly. "You are kind. Many humans do not smile here." "Well," he said, looking at her, "you give me a reason to." Yari looked away, blushing, or whatever the alien version of it was. Her cheeks glowed softly blue. She turned back and asked, "On Earth? What does it mean when you touch someone?" "Like this." She lightly placed her hand on Callan's arm. "It usually means you care," Callan answered. "And if you do this?" she asked, stepping closer. Her silver eyes stared into his. She pointed to her cheek. "Oh," Callan said, unsure. "That? Where I'm from, it's a friendly kiss for someone special." Yari smiled slowly, her eyes glowing brighter under the moons. "Special?" Callan laughed awkwardly. "Yeah, it's just a gesture. Like saying, 'I like you.' No, big deal." Then, without thinking, Callan leaned forward and gave her a quick kiss on her cheek. It was soft, warm, simple. But Yari froze. Her entire body trembled. Her eyes widened like twin suns. She stepped back, slowly touching her face where he kissed her. "You did it." "What?" Callan asked, confused. "It was just a kiss, a joke." "No," she whispered. "That was not a joke." Suddenly the air around her shimmered. Her glowing skin pulsed with light. Wind swept through the clearing as if the forest itself had taken a deep breath. Callan stood up quickly. "Yari? Are you okay?" But she was already backing away, her eyes full of emotion. "I have to go." "Wait. What's wrong?" She didn't answer. She turned and ran, vanishing into the blue fog of the trees. Callan stood frozen. What had he done? He sat down again, confused, heart pounding. It was just a kiss. Right? Back in the alien village, the elders were already awake. Yari ran through the night, her feet bare, her eyes glowing. She stormed into the elder chamber, breathless. One of the elders, a tall, robed figure with eyes like storm clouds, stepped forward. "Child, and what have you done?" "I didn't mean to," Yari said. "He kissed me." The elders looked at each other in silence. "Then the bonding has begun," the elder said. "The prophecy, it is happening." But he didn't know. He's human. He doesn't understand what that kiss means for us. The elder placed a hand on her shoulder. Yet the magic does not care. A soul kiss cannot be undone. Yari looked down at her glowing hands, already beginning to hum with new life. Something ancient had awakened inside her. And inside her, something had begun to grow. Back at his tent, Callan stared at the alien sky, thinking about the look on Yari's face. He had kissed her without meaning anything serious. But she reacted like it meant everything. He had no idea that in her culture, a kiss under the moons was not a joke. It was a sacred bond, a mating ritual. And now, something unexplainable had started. But by the time he found out, it would be far too late to go back. She returned with a baby? The next morning, the village was quiet. Too quiet. Callan stepped out of his tent, still confused about the night before. He hadn't seen Yari since she ran off into the forest. He thought maybe she was embarrassed or angry. He didn't know. But he couldn't stop thinking about her glowing eyes and that strange wind that followed her. He sighed, stretching. Well, guess I messed that up, he muttered. But then he saw something strange. A group of villagers were standing in a wide circle near the center of the camp. They whispered and gasped, all staring at someone walking slowly toward them. Callan moved closer, and his heart nearly stopped. It was Yari. She walked barefoot across the red grass. Her long silver hair was loose, falling like silk across her shoulders. But that wasn't what shocked him. In her arms was a baby, wrapped in glowing vine cloth. The child was sleeping peacefully. Its small face looked strangely familiar, too familiar. Yari walked straight up to Callan. The crowd parted in silence. She looked up at him with tired, glowing eyes. "This is yours," she said softly. Callan blinked. "What?" "The child is yours. From the kiss," she whispered. "What do you mean? That was last night. That's not even possible." Yari nodded. "For humans, maybe not, but my people. When the sacred bond is sealed, life begins from spirit, not flesh." Callan took a step back. "You're saying that kiss made a baby?" "Yes. But that's insane." The baby yawned, its tiny mouth opening wide. Then its eyes fluttered open. They were not purple like Yari's. They were his, brown, human, and glowing faintly. Everyone gasped. The elder stepped forward. "It has begun." "What has begun?" Callan asked, looking from the baby to Yari. The elder bowed his head. "The prophecy of the moonborn." Yari was taken into the temple chambers to rest. The child was kept close to her, surrounded by singing priestesses. Callan followed the elder inside the stone hall lit by blue fires. "What prophecy?" he demanded. The elder opened an ancient scroll. The symbols were glowing in gold. A child born of two souls, one from the stars, one from our land, will change the fate of our kind, born not of blood but of a kiss beneath the twin moons. Callan sat down slowly. "You're telling me I'm the father of some magical space baby?" "Yes," the elder said. "And that child will either save our world or doom it." Later, that night, Callan sat beside Yari, who was resting with the baby in her arms. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. Yari nodded. "He's perfect. But the others are scared." "Scared of what?" She looked up at him. "Of you, of the child, of what's coming." Callan frowned. "I didn't ask for any of this." "I know," she said. "Neither did I." There was silence between them. Then the baby made a soft sound, a little coo, and light shimmered over its tiny fingers. The stone beside him melted into liquid. Callan stared in shock. "Did he just—" "Yes," Yari said, her voice low. "He has power." Outside, in the shadows of the forest, sharp eyes watched the village. Claws clicked against tree bark. A dark voice whispered in an alien language. "The hybrid child has been born. Send word to the High Lord." Far away, deep in space, a throne made of bone trembled. A warlord with burning eyes opened his hand and crushed a glass orb. "Kill the child. Kill the human." Back in the temple, Callan looked at the sleeping baby, his voice soft. "What's his name?" Yari smiled weakly. "We don't name children until their path is known." "Well," Callan said, "if he's anything like me, his path will be chaotic." She smiled, but there was sadness in her eyes. "We have No choice now. We must protect him no matter what. Callan looked down at the child, part human, part alien, a living mystery, and for the first time in his life, he was truly afraid. The prophecy of the hybrid child. The temple was quiet, but tension filled the air like a storm waiting to break. Callan sat by the glowing fire pit, staring at the child asleep in a floating cradle made of alien vines. His mind raced. He was just a human engineer. He came to fix machines, not fulfill alien prophecies or raise a magical baby. Yari walked in silently, her bare feet barely making a sound on the stone floor. She wore a white ceremonial robe, and her silver hair flowed behind her like moonlight. Her eyes met Callan's. "He's changing," she said softly. Callan stood. "What do you mean?" Yari moved closer. "His skin, it flickers. Sometimes it's mine. Sometimes yours." Callan looked down. The baby's face shimmered, his features slowly shifting from human to alien and back again. "How is that even possible?" Yari held out a thin scroll glowing with symbols. "Because he is the one from the prophecy, the child of dual worlds." The elder priest entered, his long black robes trailing behind him. His eyes were grave. "It is time you know the truth, human." Callan folded his arms. "I'm listening." The elder raised the scroll. "Thousands of cycles ago, two great empires, ours and another like yours, fought in the stars. Fire burned across galaxies. Millions died. But the war ended," Yari added. "Because a child was born, one like yours, a hybrid. He united both sides," the elder continued. "But his body could not hold the power. He vanished into the stars. Since then, our people have waited for another." Callan's voice was tight. "And now, you think he's it?" The elder nodded. "Your kiss was the spark, your blood, the seed. He is the moonborn." As the baby stirred in his cradle, the room's light dimmed. Small objects floated in the air, stones, scrolls, even Callan's tool bag. Callan's eyes widened. "He's doing that?" Yari nodded. "His power is growing fast." Suddenly a loud gong rang outside the temple. A guard burst in. "High priest escaping the night assassins." The village burned behind them. Flames danced across the rooftops as shadows moved in the smoke. Alien warriors, tall, masked, and silent, cut down anyone who got in their way. They weren't there to conquer. They were there for one thing: the hybrid child. Callan ran. His arms clutched the baby close to his chest. Every breath burned his lungs. Every step on the rocky path echoed with fear. Yari followed behind him, her white robes now stained with soot and blood. They had left the temple minutes ago, escaping through a hidden tunnel under the elder chamber. Now they climbed through the thick forest on the side of the valley, toward the icy mountains in the north. "They're following us," Yari said, looking back. Callan didn't turn around. "How many?" "Too many." Behind them, a whisper passed through the trees. A group of assassins in black armor moved without sound, wearing cloaking tech. Only their faint, glowing eyes betrayed them. They were bred for one purpose: hunt and eliminate. And tonight their prey was a baby born from a kiss. Callan stopped at a split in the trail. "Which way?" "To the river," Yari said. "We'll cross it, then enter the caves." Before they could move, a spear flew past Callan's head, missing him by inches. It struck a tree, humming with electric energy. "They found us," Callan shouted. He turned and pulled the strange alien weapon the elder had given him. It looked like a gun but fired glowing bolts of blue light. He aimed and fired into the forest. One assassin screamed and fell, his cloak shorting out. Yari threw a pulse orb into the trees. It exploded with a loud crack, throwing two more enemies into the air. They ran. The river ahead roared like a wild beast. It was wide, fast, and freezing. Callan looked down at the baby. Its eyes were glowing softly, and its hands reached toward the moon above. "I'm sorry, little guy," Callan whispered, "but we're not stopping." He tied the child tightly inside his jacket, then stepped into the river. The water hit like knives, but he didn't slow down. Yari jumped in beside him. They crossed together, their feet slipping on sharp rocks. Behind them, the assassins reached the riverbank and hesitated. "They're not following," Yari said. Callan looked up. "Why not?" Just then, the river behind them began to glow, red. A massive shadow moved under the surface. Yari's eyes widened. "There's something in the water." Callan turned, heart racing. A huge, serpent-like shape twisted in the current, but it didn't attack. It simply watched, and then slowly sank out of view. "The baby," Yari whispered. "It's protecting us." They reached the other side, breathless. The entrance to the mountain cave was ahead, a narrow crack in the rock, hidden by twisted roots and vines. Inside, it was cold and dark. Callan turned on his wrist light. The walls were smooth crystal, glowing faintly blue. It was quiet, too quiet. "Is this safe?" he asked. Yari nodded. "It's sacred. They can't follow us here. The old spirits won't allow it." As they walked deeper, the baby stirred in his jacket. Callan stopped. "He's glowing again." The light from the child's body lit up the entire tunnel. Strange symbols appeared on the cave walls. Floating lights blinked to life. Yari stepped forward, her voice full of awe. "He's unlocking the ancient path. No child has ever done this." At the end of the tunnel was a large open chamber, a circle of crystal pillars rising from the ground like frozen flames. At the center was a stone altar covered in alien writing. Yari touched the altar and it opened. Inside was a suit of armor, shining, ancient, and clearly not of this world. Callan looked at it. "What is this?" "It's for the protector," Yari whispered. "The one who guards the Moonborn." Outside the cave, the assassins stood at the riverbank. They waited. Their leader stepped forward, lifting a strange cube. Inside it, a dark flame flickered. "We will wait. When the child leaves the cave, we strike." Back in the chamber, Callan placed the baby on a soft crystal bed, then stepped toward the armor. "It looks heavy," he muttered. Yari smiled. "You'll carry it, like you carry everything." Callan looked at her. "I never asked for this," he said. "I didn't either," she replied. He sighed. "But I'm not letting anything happen to him." He stepped into the armor. It adjusted to his body, metal melting and shifting to fit him perfectly. It felt natural, like it had been waiting for him, and maybe it had. As he held the baby, again a strange energy filled the chamber. The child opened his eyes and spoke a single word for the first time. "Home, the temple of blood and binding." The wind howled through the mountain pass like a wounded beast. Snowflakes sparkled in the air as Callan, wrapped in ancient armor, stepped out of the glowing cave with the baby secured in a sling across his chest. Yari walked beside him, her skin pale from the cold but her eyes bright with purpose. The child had spoken. Home. A single word, but one that awakened something powerful. "They will come again," Yari said, looking back. "The Shadow faction never waits long." Callan nodded. "Then we keep moving. Where's this temple you spoke of?" Yari pointed toward a narrow cliff path, half buried under snow. "The temple of blood and binding lies beyond that ridge. No outsider has entered for 1,000 years. "Sounds cozy," Callan muttered. As they climbed higher, strange signs began to appear. Carvings in stone that pulsed when the baby looked at them. Statues of creatures with wings and halos of fire. Each step felt heavier, like the mountain itself was testing their will. Finally, they reached a frozen archway carved from black stone, glowing faint red beneath the snow. "This is it," Yari whispered. "The final test." They entered the temple. Inside it was warm, but not from any fire. The walls breathed, glowing softly with an inner pulse like a heartbeat. Blue mist floated along the floor. Dozens of crystal spires surrounded a central platform, shaped like a broken star. At the center was a pool, not of water but glowing liquid light. Floating above it was a stone tablet, inscribed with a single sentence in ancient alien script. Yari translated aloud. "Only when blood is offered and soul is shared shall the bond be sealed." Kalen's eyes narrowed. "Blood?" She looked down. "For the child to be fully protected, we must complete the binding, but it demands sacrifice. It will take a piece of you." "You mean my blood?" "No," Yari said quietly. "Your memories, your strength, even your mind." The baby began to cry, softly at first, then louder. A wave of invisible force rippled through the room. The crystal spires shook. The pool of light boiled. "He's in pain," Kalen said, stepping forward. Yari grabbed his arm. "We must do it now. The ritual will ease him. It will shield his soul from enemies forever." "But you said it'll cost me." "It will," she said. "But if we delay, they'll find us. They'll take him." Kalen looked at the child. Half human, half alien, glowing with raw power but crying like any other baby. He stepped onto the platform. Yari took a crystal dagger from the altar and made a small cut on her palm. She touched the light pool. It glowed red. Then she handed the dagger to Kalen. He hesitated. His hands trembled. This wasn't war. This wasn't tech or science. This was magic. Life-altering, soul-draining magic. He looked at Yari. "If I lose myself," she placed her hand on his cheek, "then I will help you find your way back." Kalen gritted his teeth and made the cut. His blood hit the glowing pool. The room exploded with light. Visions flooded his mind. He saw stars being born, wars ending, planets blooming with new life. He saw the child, older, standing before armies, who bowed. He saw a hand, his hand guiding that child. But then the visions twisted. He saw fire, darkness, the same boy screaming as shadowy figures dragged him away. And at the center of it all, Kalen himself, either savior or destroyer. He collapsed. Yari caught him, her face pale. "You did it." The baby had stopped crying. He now floated above the altar, spinning slowly, bathed in golden light. The glow faded, and he dropped gently back into Kalen's arms. He was calm and protected. The ritual was complete. Outside the temple, dark clouds swirled. The shadow faction had found them. 10 black ships hovered above the mountain, their lights locked on the temple entrance. From one of them, a tall figure emerged, wrapped in living armor with eyes like burning coals. "He has completed the bond," the warlord hissed. "We attack now, or lose the galaxy forever." Back inside, Kalen stirred. His head throbbed. His breath was heavy. But the baby in his arms looked up at him and smiled. "Dada," the baby whispered. It was barely a sound. But it was enough to bring Kalen back from the edge. Yari gasped. He spoke again. Kalen smiled through the pain. "No matter what comes next, we fight together." He stood, wounded but stronger than ever, and turned to face the temple door. Outside, death was coming. But inside that temple stood a human, an alien girl, and a miracle child. And they were ready. He fought for his son and his mate. Thunder cracked over the mountaintop as the enemy arrived. Black warships hovered like silent predators, their engines humming like a storm waiting to break. From them dropped the night assassins, dozens of elite warriors in shadow armor, landing quietly on the temple snow. Their leader, the obsidian warlord, stepped forward. His voice was deep and cold. "Bring me the child. Kill the human." Inside the ancient temple, Kalen stood tall. His body was still weak from the ritual. His hands shook. His mind felt heavy with the weight of the visions. But when he looked down at the baby in his arms and saw the soft smile, something changed. He wasn't afraid anymore. This was no longer just survival. This was his family, Yari ran to the edge of the temple and opened a hidden vault. Inside were ancient weapons, shields of light, swords made of pure crystal, and old armor pieces glowing faint green. She tossed a shield to Callan. "You still remember how to use one?" "I've never used one," he said, catching it clumsily. Then, "Don't die." The baby, wrapped in sacred cloth, floated into the air again, its eyes glowing brighter than before. The crystal walls of the temple pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. Yari gasped. "He's awakening." The child raised a hand, and a glowing barrier formed around the altar, shielding him completely. Callan looked at Yari. "Looks like it's just us now." Yari nodded and pulled her own blade, long and curved like the moons above. Then the temple doors exploded. The first wave of assassins charged in, silent and swift. Their blades glowed red. They moved like shadows, striking fast. Callan blocked, the first blow with his shield, barely holding his ground. He swung the alien weapon the Elder gave him. A blue arc of energy sliced through two attackers. Yari flipped backward, cutting down another with her blade. Her body moved like water, graceful, but deadly. "They fought back to back, behind you," Callan shouted. Yari ducked as a spear flew past her head. She kicked the attacker away and smiled. "Not bad for a human. Not bad for a space elf," Callan grinned, blood on his lip. More enemies came. 5, 10, 15. They were surrounded. Then, the Obsidian Warlord entered. He was taller than the others, with glowing black armor that bent light around him. His blade was jagged and alive, humming with dark energy. He pointed at Callan. "You. Earth scum. You dare bond with our sacred bloodline? You bring shame." Callan raised his weapon. "I brought life. What did you bring? Death?" The warlord roared and charged. The clash shook the temple. Sparks flew. Callan blocked strike after strike, the force nearly breaking his arms. But he didn't fall. He wouldn't. The baby inside the glowing shield cried again, only this time, his cry echoed. Like thunder, pillars cracked, walls shimmered, and the warlord hesitated. "What is this power?" he growled. The child floated higher, eyes wide open, arms stretched out. A soft light wrapped around Callan and Yari, healing their wounds, filling them with warmth and strength. Yari whispered, "He's protecting us." Callan smiled through blood. "Guess he takes after his old man." With a final roar, Callan rushed forward. His blade met the warlord's. They clashed again and again, until the warlord stumbled. Callan saw the opening. He drove the alien weapon straight. Into the warlord's chest, the armor cracked. Light burst from the wound. The warlord screamed and exploded into a burst of shadow and sparks. The remaining assassins froze, then turned and fled. Silence fell. The temple stood broken but not defeated. Callan dropped to one knee, panting. Yari rushed to his side, her hand on his shoulder. "We did it," she said. "No," Callan replied, looking at the glowing child. "He did it." The shield around the baby lowered slowly. The child floated down, smiling. He crawled into Callan's arms, resting his head against his chest. Yari placed her hand on Callan's. "You protected him. You protected us." Callan looked at her, and in that moment, under the broken ceiling and falling snow, he realized something. He was no longer just a visitor. He was home. The human who changed a world. The sun finally rose above the snowy peaks, melting the cold night away. Golden light touched the temple ruins, broken stone walls now glowing gently under the dawn. Smoke rose from the battlefield, but the wind carried no more screams. The war was over, and at the center of it all stood a human, a once silent alien girl and their miracle child. Callan sat on the temple steps, his armor cracked and burned. His arms held the baby, now sleeping peacefully against his chest. Yari leaned beside him, her head resting on his shoulder, her silver hair blowing in the breeze. They were bruised, tired, changed, but alive, and together. The alien elders arrived before midday. They came by sky beasts and hovercrafts bringing healers and warriors to clean the temple. When they saw the glowing child, untouched and smiling, they fell to their knees. One elder stepped forward, tears in his eyes. The Moonborn lives. The prophecy is fulfilled. Callan looked down at the baby, then back at them. He's just a kid, he said quietly. He doesn't need a throne. He needs a home. Yari smiled. Maybe he can have both. Later that day, a great fire was lit outside the temple, a celebration fire. Hundreds of villagers gathered. The warriors sang, the children danced. Stories were already being shared, of a human who walked into legend with nothing but kindness and courage. They called him many things: the Star-Kissed, the Protector, the Father of Balance. But Callan just laughed and shook his head. I'm still just an engineer, he told Yari. She smiled. Not anymore. At sunset, Yari stood before the people with the child in her arms. Her voice was clear and calm. This child is not a weapon. He is a bridge between two worlds. He is not here to rule with fear, but to grow with love. The crowd cheered. Then she turned to Callan. Her voice softened. And this man gave up everything to protect what he barely understood. He didn't have magic. He didn't have prophecy. But he had heart. Callan stepped forward awkwardly. Thanks? Laughter rolled through the crowd. That night, under the twin moons, again, Yari sat with Callan on the temple wall. Do you regret it? She asked softly. Callan looked out over the valley. Coming here? Kissing you? She smiled. All of it. He shook his head. No. That one moment, that kiss, it changed everything. I thought it was just a joke, just a moment. He looked into her glowing eyes. But it became my whole life. The baby, now resting beside them, stirred. He reached out and grabbed Callan's finger, holding tight. A spark of light passed between them. No powers. No visions. Just warmth. Real. Human warmth. And far above, in the stars beyond, the warships that once hunted the hybrid now turned away. Peace had come, not through fire or fear, but through a kiss, a child, and a bond no one expected. Years later, a young boy ran across a field of glowing grass. Behind him, Callan followed, older now, but still strong. Yari stood at the edge of a new home, laughing as their son tried to lift a floating rock with his mind. He failed, then tried again. Callan called out, "Easy, hero! No collapsing mountains today!" The boy laughed, then shouted, "I'll be stronger than both of you. One day." Callan smiled. "Good, because the galaxy is going to need you." Yari stepped beside him. "And we'll be here, always." Together they watched the sunset, not on a broken world, but on a healed one. All because one human kissed an alien girl under twin moons, and didn't run when everything changed.